Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome in the Vikings Now by Chat Sports. I'll be your host for today's show, Patrick Siepman, as we're going to be diving into the latest updates we have gotten around the tampering situation going on with the Atlanta Falcons and former Vikings quarterback Kirk Cousins. This is going to be a longer show, so stay with me. We're diving into all of the latest reports that we have heard from Adam Schefter, from Mike Florio a couple weeks ago, talking about the Vikings potentially getting the Falcons pick. But I'll just say this, the pipe dream may be officially dead, as we got this report a couple hours ago this morning, as Adam Schefter tweeted out saying the league's review in the tampering allegations against the Falcons and Eagles is ongoing. However, it will not conclude this week. So the hope of the Vikings getting that 8th pick for a potential pick swap with the Atlanta looking a whole lot less likely than it did a couple of days ago. But I'll give you guys my full thoughts. Then also we're going to go back in time and look at former quotes from Adam Schefter himself, and then also Mike Florio, as they were suggesting only a week ago that the Vikings could get the 8th pick. We'll dive into that here in a second. But let me just ask you guys this question. If you guys were running, the NFL, and, maybe you're biased as a Vikings fan is coming out here, but do you think the Vikings should have gotten the Falcons first rounder in a pick swap with 8 and 11, or maybe 8 and 23? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Y for yes, N for no. As I actually think this for Atlanta, if Atlanta's punishment was, giving up the 8th pick and then getting the 11th pick back, I don't think that would have been the worst case scenario for the Falcons, because they are more likely than not to draft the number 1 defensive player in this year's class, and I think they could have gotten the same guy at either picks 8 or 11. But you guys let me know, should the Vikings have gotten the Falcons first rounder? My response to this was yes, and yes again. Obviously Kirk kind of spilled the beans in his introductory press conference with the Falcons, saying he had contact with some Falcons members before he did sign. He kind of spilled the beans on that. So I think the Vikings should have gotten a pick. I think it would have made a bunch of sense for both teams, considering Atlanta was going to get the same guy at 8 or 11, and this would have just helped the Vikings' case to move up in the NFL draft. But this was a report we did get from Schefter yesterday around the tampering situation with the Atlanta Falcons and Kirk Cousins, as he said this. He said the NFL's investigation into alleged tampering charges against the Falcons for their involvement with then-free agent quarterback Kirk Cousins, and the Eagles for their involvement with then-free agent running back Saquon Barkley is ongoing and could reach a conclusion as early as this week, per sources. So he said yesterday that we could be seeing a result this week, but then he conflicted himself with a new report early on today saying it's probably going to end up happening after the NFL draft. But he also says sources believe the discipline, which is likely to involve draft picks, is expected to be more severe for the Falcons. So, guys, when I saw this report yesterday from Adam Schefter, I was thinking, man, the Vikings might be able to get a draft pick here. And it led me to this, what if they would have been able to swap picks 8 and 23? Where could you imagine the Vikings would have number 8 or the 8th pick and the 11th pick in this year's draft? It would have been so much easier to move up for a quarterback. Because if you're telling New England, hey, we'll send you a late number 8 and pick number 11 instead of picks 11 and 23, obviously that would make their haul look a whole lot better. But it's looking more likely than not that this will not get resolved this week. But I do want to dive into what Mike Florio said a little bit ago. This is about probably 2 weeks ago now. He kind of started connecting some dots here, reading some tea leaves about the two sides potentially getting in trouble for talking before the free agency started. So this is a longer quote, so stay with me. But this is what Florio said. He said the Falcons tampering with quarterback Kirk Cousins, as proven by the things Cousins said during his introductory press conference. The NFL is investigating. If the NFL is serious about getting to the truth, an investigation that makes the blatant tampering even more clear should not require many steps. The question becomes whether and to what extent the Falcons will be punished. Some of the presence of Rich McKay on the competition committee will get the Falcons a pass. Obviously, that shouldn't be the case. But he said this. However, they did get less of a punishment for pumping fake crowd noise into the Georgia Dome than the 49ers received for a simple accounting error. given the manner in which the NFL handled the last year's tampering by the Cardinals and former Eagles defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon. It's impossible to rule out an announcement that drops just before the first round of the draft. The Falcons have the 8th pick in round 1. The Vikings have the 11th. What if the punishment is as simple as the Falcons and Vikings flip-flopping the 2 picks? So that quote from Florio was very, very interesting. And, no matter what you think of Mike Florio, I think a lot of Vikings fans, think he's a lot of, clickbait, don't really think he's the most trustworthy guy, but he has been pretty tapped into this Kirk Cousins situation. He called Kirk going to Atlanta, which I think a lot of us could as well, but, I got to give Florio credit here. He has been tapped in, and there's no doubt this would have changed things for the Vikings draft. Kind of like what I alluded to at the top of today's show, like the whole trade package of 8 and 11 or 8 and 23 is a whole lot better than the trade package instead of the trade package of 11 and 23. It would obviously just allow the Vikings to make a better offer, and you can almost tell New England, like, yeah, we want to trade up for pick 3, or if you're the Cardinals, for pick 4, but you guys can also get the prospect you want at pick 11. And Florio alluded to it in that quote. He talked about Rich McKay. He's involved with the Falcons. He works for them, and he's also on the competition committee for the NFL. Not trying to speculate too much, but it just kind of seems, funny that this report comes out and that the Falcons aren't going to lose any draft picks, considering Rich McKay is with the Falcons. I don't know. Just kind of seems a little bit shady to me. But again, anything can happen with this, even though Florio did put out the report today that it will not get, or not Florio, Schefter put out the report today that it will not get resolved. We could be getting a new report here any second that the Vikings could still be getting the Falcons' 8th pick. But hey, if we do get an update around this situation, I promise you guys I will be making a video for you guys ASAP. During free agency, I was making videos in the bathroom, trying to just get the latest around the Vikings out to you guys. So hey, if you guys could help me out, if you guys want to stay up to date with the latest around your Minnesota Vikings, just drop a sub on today's show. Help us reach 25K. We're actually almost 200 subs away, which is pretty freaking cool. But if you guys haven't already, I'd appreciate it if you guys hit that sub button. But I do want to dive into the latest reports here around the Vikings potentially trading up with the New England Patriots. Because as I'm reading these tea leaves just a little bit more, starting to look like New England may be open to trading that 3rd pick. We'll dive into that here in a second. But first, guys, I got to tell you about a sweet deal we got going on right now at chatsports.com/Vikings jersey, where we have a great deal on some Aaron Jones jerseys. Personally, for me, this would be the jersey I'm going to be rocking when the Vikings take on the Packers 2 times this year. Just get that revenge game factor. So if you guys want to be rocking the hottest Vikings jersey during those Packers games, head to chatsports.com/Vikings jersey. Link for that is in the comment section and description of today's show. So let's talk about it. Could the Vikings be trading up with the New England Patriots, or could the Patriots be open to trading up in this year's draft? So we did talk about this report we got from Rossini yesterday, where she tweeted out saying the New England Patriots are listening and taking calls from teams looking to move into the top 3, while Elliot Wolf is running point. Told Patriots President Jonathan Krass is heavily involved in the decision making. And following that report from Rossini, we did get this from Schefter. He was on the Pat McAfee show talking about the Vikings trading up. He said the 2 teams that have expressed interest the most in trading up with New England has been the Vikings and the Giants. Obviously, the Giants are big fans of J.J. McCarthy and Drake May, similar to Minnesota. So both those teams are clearly calling the New England Patriots trying to trade up. But, it's going to come down to if the Vikings are willing to, send that Godfather offer to go get Drake May. And I personally think the Vikings' number 1 choice is Drake May. I think no doubt, like if they had to handpick a quarterback that's not named Caleb Williams, or just honestly handpick a prospect not named Caleb Williams, I think it would be Drake May 100%. So my message to Kwesi would be, if this is true, if he is your number 1 choice, do whatever it takes to go get him. Because nothing moves the needle more in any sports than the quarterback position. And could you imagine, like if he lives up to that Justin Herbert, Josh Allen potential, how freaking good this football team would be for the next 15 years. But more on the Patriots potentially trading down. Robert Kraft was talking to media members a couple weeks ago, and he says, as a fan, I'll put my fan hat on. I definitely would in terms of drafting a quarterback. However, in the end, you can't win in this league consistently unless you have a first-rate quarterback and a first-rate coach. On the other hand, you're in different positions, and we've never been in the third draft position since we own the team. And what happens a lot of teams behind you are really desperate to move up. So we're going to be open to whatever could come our way. But in the end, I'll let the team make the decision on what they think is best. So Kraft, that could be a little GM talk, that could be a little coach talk, but hey, maybe they are really open to trading down. I just think it's going to require an offer for them to move that makes them want to move off that pick. But it also gets me to this point. I think the Vikings are cool with Drake May or J.J. McCarthy. I think if the Vikings can't get up to 3 to go draft, obviously, Drake May, I think they're more than okay with trading up to 4 or 5 or even potentially sitting there at 11 and drafting the Michigan quarterback. And that's kind of in the camp I am in, where it's like, I want to go all in on Drake May. But again, if we land with J.J. McCarthy, we're still throwing a party here on the channel. I still think it's going to work out because, yet again, the second best quarterback in this year's draft class will be whoever the Minnesota Vikings end up taking. But more from Gerard Mayo on the Patriots potentially trading back. He says, when I first started watching these guys, it was a 3-man race. And now as you continue to go to the combine or the pro days and bringing in guys in on the 30 visits and having time to spend with those guys to really get to know what makes them tick, I mean, it's about 5 guys, honestly, that could come in and be a solid quarterback of the future. So hearing that kind of makes me think that I think the Patriots are open to trading down. I don't know if it's their number one choice right now is to trade down in the draft, but kind of just reading the tea leaves here, like, I think New England knows the roster's not ready, and I think maybe they're trying to, drive the asking price up for a potential trade up for Minnesota. So my gut's telling me right now that the Patriots want to trade back. It's just they're not going to do it unless they get an offer that blows them away. And also more around the Vikings and Drake May. Right now, Jaden Daniels, odds have shifted about an hour ago where he is the, I'd say, overwhelming favorite to be the second pick. Right now, he's about minus 330. So maybe this is something where it's on draft day. The Vikings call the Patriots after they see Daniels go to the Commanders with the second pick. And maybe that's when they come in and send that Godfather offer. And we'll be obviously live here on the channel breaking that down and more. But if you guys were Kwesi, if you were the Vikings brass in front office, who would you choose as your quarterback? Give me a DM for Drake May, J.J. McCarthy or type J.J. for J.J. McCarthy, or type a J.D. for Jaden Daniels. Let me know your guys' thoughts down in the comment section. And then, guys, we will be going live here on the channel 30 minutes before the first pick of the NFL draft. So I can't wait. It's going to be a ton of fun. We're going to be having a couple drinks on the show and just overall having a good time. So if you guys want to tune in, make sure you guys are subscribed. Turn on those notifications so you don't miss a thing. And we'll see you guys next time. As always, SKOL Vikes.